It's incredibly easy to give God credit for creating everything or being responsible for everything on earth and beyond because it gives you one answer: God.
Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not true.
God created that. God caused that to happen. This is because of God. It doesn't require any additional thinking. It doesn't really require thinking.
It doesn't require it, but there's certainly room for it. I highly recommend that you look up Answers in Genesis or Creation Ministries International. There's lots of thinking that can be done. In fact, I have a friend on here who is a professor of physics. He's a Christian, and he was an atheist. He found Christ while studying his field. But there are plenty of atheists who don't think either. They make claims like there was never a Jesus that existed. Things like that are easily proven wrong. So people can choose to not think on either side.
Because when it comes to something that you don't understand, you can just say that God did it, created it, caused it to happen somehow, some way.
Right, and atheists, when they can't explain why it makes sense that there's a creator, they just say, well, it was an accident. How many accidents have to happen for it to be clearly designed?
Back in the day, when people didn't understand things like an eclipse, or the Earth rotating on its axis, or a volcanic eruption, they just attributed it to God, because they didn't know anything.
Really? So what about this list of scientists who are all believers in a God? Show me one paper where their explanation was, oh, God did it.
So with all of that in mind, of course someone like you would leave a comment like this. Why do you assume that if ghosts and spirits exist, which is debatable, that they are caused by God, that they cannot exist if God doesn't exist?
Well, the existence of something implies a creation event. Even atheists believe in the accidental creation of the universe. They say it happened on its own. Sure, they don't believe in outside force, but you still believe there was a start to everything. So if there are demons and angels and spirits, well, where'd they come from? It makes most sense that the book that talks about them the most might have the answer.
This is the same thinking that bred verses like Joshua 10 and 12, where it says that God stopped the sun in the sky to make the day longer, when we know today that stopping the sun to make the day longer makes absolutely no sense. They didn't know that then, so they attributed it to a god.
Then you're a liar every time you call it a sunset, unless you're a flat earther, which I don't think you are. It's about the human perspective. From his perspective, it stopped in the sky. With God being outside time, he could easily put a little bubble of time around them where the outside world was not affected. And there are other theories as well. But just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it isn't true. There are plenty of people who've been cured by cancers, what would seem miraculously. Go ahead and explain all those. Or is that just going to be one of those where you say, well, one day we'll know? That's kind of like just throwing God out there.
It's the same thing here. You don't know where ghosts or spirits or like paranormal activity comes from, and so you automatically assume that it has to come from a god.
Again, the book that talks about it most.
I invite you to open your mind up a little bit more and to actually research where the idea of ghosts and spirits came from.
And I would recommend that you actually read the book and study what it says, as opposed to just assuming that it's always wrong. See, you'll claim that you've read it over and over, and I believe you've read a lot of it, but you're always reading it with the intention of disproving it. If you were truly as intellectual as you purport yourself to be, then you would go to it unbiasedly and allow it to be ridiculous on its own, instead of just assuming it is.
Not stupid ChatGPT. Go to Google like a normal person with a functioning brain and actually research.
Wow. Okay, so first off, Google uses AI too. So that doesn't really work for your argument. And secondly, if Google is your epitome of research, then you're making it clear you don't know what research is. You need to read books by people who are experts in their field, not just Google articles that you like from sources that you prefer. That's just as lazy as ChatGPT. ChatGPT just makes it quicker.
The idea of ghosts and spirits is found in a lot of different cultures.
Sure, because if something is real, then everybody's going to have their opinion on it. Kind of like a worldwide flood, and there being flood accounts all over the world. How about that?
I'm not saying that you're going to find all of the answers. I don't have all the answers. No one has all of the answers.
God does.
But I know enough that everything that exists or is believed to exist is not automatically attributed to a god.
Well, that's true, because sin is a lack of godliness. It's not a substance. It's like a shadow is a lack of light. So God didn't create evil. God didn't create sin. But by his very nature, when you exclude him, it is metaphorically created.
And I do research when I don't understand where something came from.
On Google.
It's very easy to say, it's God, and just be done with it.
One day we'll know and just be done with it.
It's harder to actually search for answers.
And harder still to actually listen to the counterpoints instead of just laughing them off and laughing at God.
A lot of people like taking the easy way out and not having to think much, hence why we have so many Christians in the world.
Said the person who thinks Google is research.